technical stuff here. Okay, here we go. Cool. All right, well, let's get started. So welcome everybody to the Petaluma Riverside chat. It's been a big day for everybody in the US, but welcome to tonight's Petaluma Riverside chat. My name is Jessica and I'm your host and a master rower of the North Bay Rowing Club. Because tonight's chat is such a cool and unique opportunity with our guests Kendall Chase and Lauren Schmetterling of the Women's US Rowing National Team, both who are currently training for the Olympics. I reached out to a number of coaches for input on possible topics to discuss. And so I'd like to just give a quick shout out of thanks and appreciation to those coaches, DeDe Birch, Volker Nolte, Brett Gorman, Nancy Churchill, and Neil Bergenroth for their thoughtful contributions. Before we get into this discussion, just a brief blurb about these chats and our upcoming schedule. The Petaluma Riverside Chats is a venue to enhance attendees' knowledge of all aspects of rowing, as well as talks and presentations that raise our awareness of our beloved local Petaluma River watershed and the goings-ons of the greater Petaluma River community. The Petaluma Riverside Chats video recordings are accessible to the public via Petaluma Riverside Chats YouTube channel, and I've shared the link to this in tonight's Zoom chat. Just a reminder, since the recording of this chat will be made public, if you do not wish to be recorded, just go ahead and take yourself off video. Beginning tomorrow, I will post the dates and times of upcoming chats on the About page of the Petaluma Riverside Chats YouTube channel, so you can check in there for upcoming chats. And if you're interested in being notified of those, as well as getting a Zoom link to them, go ahead and email me, and I put my email in the chat for tonight. As well as if you have ideas or suggestions for guests, please send them. I welcome all. Anybody you'd like to suggest things, I'll go ahead and pursue them. Let's see, quickly regarding the upcoming chat schedule, our next chat will be on Wednesday, February 3rd, 5 p.m. with former Olympian Lindsay Shoup, and she's going to be discussing her new book, Better Late Than Never, Believing It's Possible. And this chat will also include the topic of virtual coaching opportunities, as well as we're in the planning stages of doing a follow-up session with her focused on some movement, different, potentially some techniques, warm-up techniques, etc., to enhance our rowing experiences. In February 17th, we're going to have Dana Riggs. She's a CEO and founder of Principal Biologist of Soul Ecology and North Bay Rowing Club member, and she'll present on the fish and wildlife of the Petaluma River and include some cool photography tips. Later that month, March, Sonoma University professor Nicole Myers will be joining us to talk on the geological origins and evolution of the Petaluma watershed. And let me know in advance if there are any geologic or hydrologic areas of interest you would like to have her include in the talk. And other confirmed but yet to be scheduled chats will be with the Delta Rowing Center founders and coaches Pat Terone and Bob O'Brandy to share their vision of inclusivity, every body rowing. This will be a great one if you're looking for ideas and strategies for creating inclusivity in your own boathouses. And we'll also have guests Greg Saborin and Maggie Hall of the Petaluma Small Craft Center to share their vision and details on the float house. And sometime this spring, Sage Roundtree will discuss yoga for athletes, in specific for rowers. And she's a yoga teacher and author of many books. And if you're interested, I highly recommend The Athlete's Guide to Yoga and The Athlete's Guide to Recovery. And she's taught at a variety of locations, including the US Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. So, okay. So now, if you'd like, and if you haven't done so already, if you want to put where you're logging in from and potentially the boathouse that you're associated with, that'd be wonderful. People can just see who their online community is with tonight. And I'm going to just take a moment and admit a few people here. Sorry about this, multitasking. Okay. And okay. Let's see. Oh, and just lastly, during this evening as it progresses, I welcome you to type in your questions and comments into the chat, and I will refer to them during the discussion and the Q&A to follow. So, and again, if you could put yourself on mute if you just arrived, that'd be great. So please join me in welcoming our guests of the U.S. Women's National Team, Kendall Chase and Lauren Schmetterling, Welcome, and again, thank you both for joining us tonight. We're really excited to have you for this chat. To say that we are in the presence of greatness tonight would be an understatement, and I truly believe that. To emphasize this, I'm going to begin by quickly running through just a few of your professional international rowing accomplishments in the last 7 years, and forgive me if I get any of this not quite right, but because there may be some updated information that I wasn't able to glean online.
It's very long.
It's very long, yeah. In 2017, the women's...
Nothing's happened in the last couple of months, so don't worry about those results.
Kendall Chase in 2017, the women's 8, you took 3rd in the World Rowing Cup 2 and 4th in the women's during the World Rowing Championships. In 2016, the women's pair, you took 4th and in the women's 8, you took 1st during the World Rowing Under 23 Championships. In 2015, you took 1st place in both the women's 4 and 8 during the World Rowing Under 23 Championships. And in 2014, you took 1st place in both the women's 4 and 8 during the World Rowing Under 23 Championships. And then Lauren Schmetterling, you finished 7th in the quad at the 2019 World Championships, Rowing Championships. You served as an alternate at the 2018 World Rowing Championships. In 2017, you finished 4th in the 8 at the World Rowing Championships and finished 18th in the single sculls at the World Rowing Cup 3 and finished 11th in the single sculls at the 2017 World Rowing Cup 2. You won golds in the 8 at the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio, also in the 2014 through the 2016 World Rowing Cup 2, and in the 2013 to 2015 World Rowing Championships. All of those 1st place. You placed 1st in the 4 at the 2015 World Rowing Cup 2 and finished 6th in the pair at the 2014 World Cup 2. On and on, but I just want to stress we really are in the presence of some...
I did say the list was very long.
Athletes. I'm going to joke and say, did I miss anything? I did. There's a bunch more to your accomplishments, but I just did want to do a shout out to all of that. We're going to start with each of you sharing a bit about your personal backgrounds. Can you each tell us a little bit about how you got into rowing? When did you know you wanted to compete professionally, and what opportunities, people, events, etc. in your life may have helped to enable this decision to row professionally?
I'll start. So my name is Kendall Chase. I am from Evergreen, Colorado.
Just listening to this webinar, I'm just have it on 1 ear, so.
Okay, I'm going to mute everybody.
So from Colorado, where there are currently 2 rowing clubs, so not super popular. What else? I am 26 years old. I went to school at University of California, Berkeley, where I rowed all 4 years. I did a bunch of junior, under 23, and then eventually came here to the senior team. And I guess to answer Jessica's question about like how I got here, who I would like to, I guess, attribute some of my success to would be my junior coaches, especially Liz Trond and Sandy Armstrong, and also my high school coach, Grace Malcrita, who, like, even when I was such a terrible, horrible novice, like, wore bike shorts while rowing, just had no idea what I was doing. They saw potential and invited me to camps, and they kind of just pushed me and led me into the right direction to get me on this path to college rowing and then eventually here.
Nice.
That's kind of my little intro, I guess.
That sounds great.
My name is Lauren Schmetterling. I'm from Morristown, New Jersey, which is right outside of Philly. I started rowing in high school in 2003 for a really tiny club called Morristown Rowing Club. And like, we had 4 people on the team my senior year. Like, we were literally rowing out of a trailer, and our boats were like fenced in this barbed wire enclosure. And it's blossomed into this beautiful, amazing club now. But when I was there in 2003, it was really tiny. And I tried to get recruited for college. I was unsuccessful. I went to Colgate University, which I chose for its academics. Since I was getting denied, I reached out to many schools trying to get recruited. And I think I was going 740 at the time, and no one was interested in me. So I just looked for a college that was a good academic fit, and I wanted to go to a small liberal arts school. So I went to Colgate, and I studied econ and computer science, and I never dreamed that I would be where I am today. I was just really focused on my academics at the time. And I sort of continued along that path for most of my college career. I would say my freshman, sophomore, and junior year, I was really into my studies, and I did not have my sights set on the national team at all until one of the national team coaches reached out to my college coach, Greg Krasinski, and the national team coach said to my coach, if you can get any women going under 7 minutes on the erg, then we can invite them to under 23 camp this summer. And at that time I was going 720. So I don't know why I thought this would be a realistic or fun goal for me. But I kind of took that number, and I kind of was focused on that number, and I started pursuing that on my own because my college program wasn't physiologically getting me where I needed to go. And I sort of made that my pursuit of my junior summer and senior fall. And I did end up meeting the erg standard, and I was invited to under 23 camp that summer, and this was 2010, which was actually here in Chula Vista, where I am right now. And I did not end up making that team. I was the last person not to make the team. But the national team coach, Tom, told me that he liked my spirit and my attitude and my work ethic, and would I want to stay around and train with the national team on like a trial basis. And I very enthusiastically accepted. And about 2 months after that, Tom told me that I was not meeting any of the standards, and I was promptly cut. And I moved up to Boston, where I rowed out of Riverside Boat Club on the Charles for 2 years. And when I was cut, Tom told me that I could rejoin the team if I were able to meet some of the national team standards. And I think it was 21:20 on the erg and a top 3 finish in my single. And when he cut me, he was never expecting to see me ever again, which he later told me. But I went to Boston. I worked diligently on myself. And at the fall 2012 speed order, I ended up winning my single. And I also won the erg, meeting the erg standard. And I was invited back to train with the national team. And so that was 2012 fall. 2013 was my first ever national team. I rowed in the 8. We actually set a world record on my first ever international race. That was in Lucerne. And then I was in the 8, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. And
She's very good.
I was a spare. I rode in the quad. Yeah, and that's kind of my story up to now. Just
Nice.
kind of grinding it out.
We have very different routes on how we ended up here, but we're both here.
We're both here.
Any words of wisdom for or advice for folks, for high school athletes who are looking to compete on the national team level, that are junior national, youth 23, or senior team if they're wanting to?
I mean, I guess just like put in the work is the most simple, best advice that I would give. Like, rowing is one of the greatest sports in the sense that like you get out of it what you put into it. Like, there's no easy way to get here where we are. And you are in control of how much work you put into your training, erging, rowing, whatever it may be. And there's like really no limits to like what you can push yourself to do.
My advice would be to enjoy the sport first and foremost. Like, it took me a while to kind of get going in the sport, but I think that I've lasted as long as I have because I love the sport so much. And I think that if I didn't have that, like, there's no way I could be able to make it through all these workouts. Like, we're erging, rowing sometimes 45K a day, and I think it's just really hard to do that if you're not truly enjoying and appreciating what you're doing and the journey that you're on along the way.
You have to learn to embrace the suck, because there's a lot of suck with rowing, but with suck comes a lot of fun, good times, and friends and memories and
like we all love racing. We all want to get out there and go really fast on race day, but in order to do that, you just have to put your head down and do the things that you know you have to do, and hopefully have some fun along the way.
What about, and I thought this was just a great suggestion for a question, and I've added in a few different coaches that sort of had contributed to this theme, but a focus on getting to know your body and how have you navigated, and what are some of the strategies you've developed in becoming masters of your own physiology, you know, mental capabilities, recovery tactics, you know?
It's hard to figure out your own physiology and your own body's needs. Like, I've had a problem that took me like 2 years to figure out what was happening, and then the solution ended up being not having caffeine, which took a little bit too long to figure out. But I mean, it's a hard balance with learning to listen to yourself and listen to your body, while at the same time you're like, oh, I don't want to let my teammates down, I want to do the work. But then you have to keep in mind like the bigger picture. Like, do you want to hurt yourself now, or like just take a few days for yourself, and instead of being out for like a week or 2 weeks, just be out for a few days? I need to listen to my own advice.
For me, I think I would answer that question a little bit differently. In my many years of rowing, I've only had one injury, but
she's like Superwoman. She's an iron body that just like doesn't really break, because all of her joints are so fused they just won't move.
Everything is very stiff, but we don't have time to talk about this now. I would say that in your journey and looking for speed and improve yourself as a rower, you have to recognize what you're good at and play into that, and also like see what your weaknesses are. So for me, I am very aerobic. Like I can do one speed for an incredibly long time, but I'm not strong at all. So I need to use my strength to the best of my ability, but I also have to recognize that strength is not my strength. So maybe I need to do things on my own time to work on my strength that my teammates wouldn't have to. And like use my strengths, but also not ignoring my weaknesses. And like I don't want to lose what about me that is truly great while I'm working on my deficits.
Nice. You guys may be learning new things about each other, even though you're roommates.
Oh, every day. Every day there's something new.
Every day there's something to learn about Kendall.
It sort of ties in, but it's part of the training picture too. But how do you prepare personally for big races? So like, what do you feel 1 week, and how do you prepare? And then what do you feel 1 week, 1 day, 1 hour before a race? And sort of with this question, how do you cope with your nerves in regards to that?
Well, should I go?
You can go.
Okay, so in college, like we had this saying that was like, treat every practice day like it's race day, and then treat race day like it's practice.
Right.
So like when it comes time to race, you're just like, okay, like I know I've put in all of the training and hard work, like I just have to shut my mind off and go. And like really during race day, your mind is your biggest limiting factor. You just have to learn to trust yourself and trust the work that you and your teammates have put into it. I mean, just practice like it's race day, and then race day will just seem like it's any other day.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I can't really speak to what it would be like if it was the Olympics. I think there'd be a little bit more pressure. maybe Lauren can.
Well, okay.
Share.
I feel like when I was a junior rower, I would get nervous, and I was always expecting that feeling to go away, and it never did. And you just have to use your nervous energy for good. Like use your nervous energy to make you feel strong and alert and like mentally on your game. You have to use it for good. And like I get nervous for practice sometimes too. It's just something that's never gonna go away, and you have to use it as a tool in your toolbox rather than something that's gonna hold you back. And to go off of what Kendall was saying, like treat practice like it's race day and treat race day like it's practice day. Like on race day, you should never do something that you've never done before. On race day, you should do the warm up that you always do. You should, like, if you visualize things before practice, you should visualize things before the race. Like if you do certain mobility exercises on practice day, that is exactly what you should be doing on race day. Like nothing should change except you are going to the starting line with other crews, and that's different, but there's nothing physically that's different.
Like you shouldn't take a beat shot before race day if you don't take beat shots before pieces, which I have done before.
I've done it.
I ended up fine. My teammate who also did it did not end up fine, but consistency is important. Yeah. And also kind of also going off of what Lauren said, like if you're not nervous, something is wrong.
If you're not nervous, you don't care enough about what you're about to do.
Yeah, true. Nerves are natural. It's a good thing. It gives you an extra little bit of fire to get off the line, and once you're off, everything just kind of settles down, and then your body gets to work. Starting is the hardest part.
Starting what?
Just like getting to the starting point, and then starting is the hardest part of any race workout.
Yeah, and like when you're doing your warm up, you just have to be that much more focused on what you're doing in the moment rather than visualizing what's happening during the race or picturing the result. You just have to be focused on your body and doing what your body knows it can do.
Nice. Do you guys have any breathing techniques or breathing strategies that you use in the lead up to the competition or even during the event that you'd want to share?
I mean, I guess sometimes during hard practices and the rate is low. I mean, also when the rate gets up high, I try to have like a little bit, like there'll be pictures where my face looks like a chipmunk at the finish because I'm breathing out so hard. But it did take me honestly a while to like find rhythm in my breathing. Like I remember in college being on the erg and like having my breathing like get out of tune with my stroke and thinking like, oh, like what am I doing? But like once you learn when to breathe and how to breathe, it just like comes naturally and it just becomes one with the stroke.
mean, the only other thing I would add to that is when I am sitting ready at the starting line and my blade is locked in, the only thing I'm thinking is breathe, 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 breathe. Because the breathing pattern that I establish in the first couple of strokes is going to be the breathing pattern that gets me through the finish line. And if it's not a workable breathing pattern, then I'm going to find that out in probably the first 30 or 40 seconds, which I have made that mistake before, and it's not great.
And everyone's breathing is different. Like Lauren and I, when we grow a pair together and we're doing hard stuff, I can hear her breathing like 2 times more than I'm breathing. That's just her style of breathing. But yeah, everyone just has to find their own
Rhythm
and yeah, whatever works for them.
Yeah. Cool. Sort of moving on into potentially a little heavier topic of COVID, your COVID journeys, so to speak. And how did each of you individually decide to keep going for another year? And then also, I guess that ties in because aren't things still sort of a little bit up in the air in terms of Japan and what's going on there? I don't know.
Things are still up in the air. I think they're pretty set on having an event, whether there are spectators there or athletes are quarantined upon arrival. I'm not sure. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't have a lot of information.
I also don't have a lot of information.
I'm just hoping that the Olympics are happening.
Yeah. But to answer your question, there was really no question of if I'm going to come back or not. It was like, okay, like just one more year of training. It's not that much in the grand scheme of things. Like I've already put in 4 years of work. So what's one more year on top of that to try to achieve my goal?
Makes sense.
I also did not have a question if I was going to continue rowing for an additional year. Because when I won in Rio, I knew I wanted to come back for more, and it wasn't about the World Championships. It was about going to Tokyo.
Oh, nice.
Not the intermediary events.
Yeah, nice. Was it, so it sounds like you guys, neither of you had any question about.
I mean, to be honest, I don't think anyone who's at the training center now questioned it.
We did have some teammates who retired after receiving the announcement.
Like 1, 2, 3. Just forget I said.
We'll talk about it. But I think for those people, they felt that they couldn't give 100,000% of their efforts every single day for another year, and that is absolutely what it takes to go to the Olympics.
Yeah. Cool. Kind of getting into your training and your training schedule and stuff. People were very curious about how many times a week you train and how many hours a day of those days do you train, and what's the volume of your training, if you want to share that.
Well, I guess, we kind of spoke about it in the 15 minutes prior to the talk starting, but we do train usually 7 days a week, 2 to 3 times a day, or 1 time if it's Sunday. I mean, the practices, it depends on, we normally, our type of workouts are based on like heart rate zones. So we'll have E to A being like 250s, or maybe that's even B, like super sprinty high stuff. And then E is just long, steady. So normally our workouts throughout the week will be like E on Monday, D, which is like slightly firmer, harder than E on Tuesday, and then C on Wednesday. And then that cycle will start over again, or it's kind of like that pattern. Normally there's 2 of each a week with more steady state and weights thrown in.
Usually we would row a smaller boat in the morning. So in coronavirus times, we were rowing singles, all of us. So we had a fleet of 30 singles on the water every morning. But now we're mostly in pairs in the morning. We're doing a pair matrix. And then in the afternoon, we will either row in big boats or erg or lift. And I would say that each session is anywhere between 60 on the shorter end. 60 minutes is a short session. A longer session could be, it could be 3 hours on the clock. But I mean, we're not rowing that whole time. We're doing various exercises.
Like drills or sitting rowing by pairs or something. I don't know. Right. It really just depends on the day.
But this is my full-time job. I have, so I have been here since 2013. Only one of those years did I have a job because the demands of my training schedule were too great. Like we wake up at 7 and then, you know, that morning practice wraps up around 11 and then we're back to practice around 3 and then we go again until 6:30. So there is a chunk in the middle of the day where you could potentially have a job, but I have not been able to make that work personally because
no one really has energy to waste or spend on something that's like not really considered necessary.
Like, so even when we're not at practice, like we're still at practice because we need to be resting or eating or at PT. We have this amazing physical therapist. He's on site and he just works with us. So we're usually in there 2 or 3 times a week.
It's like everything or most things that we do throughout our day pertain to training, whether it be like napping or eating or like Lauren's PT. So there are a few people who have part-time jobs. I have had a part-time job with US Rowing in the past, just kind of doing like when Brett Gorman went on maternity leave, I kind of took over her stuff for a little bit. And then a few years ago, I would go into the office every once in a while, just to like make some extra money because at that point I wasn't on stipend and I needed some kind of income for my life. But it is hard to like, our life is a full-time job.
Well, like we only have a finite amount of energy, and even if I'm doing a job that doesn't require movement, it's still emotionally draining, which does pull from my physical.
I would think. I mean, I could imagine you doing potentially even some software engineering. I don't know if you got into programming or whatever with your degree, and that would just be too taxing. It's too much mental, you know, anyway. You would just
luckily for me, the work that US Rowing gave me, well, because I think they understood the position that I was in with training and needing to like rest and whatnot. Like they gave me stuff that I can do whenever I wanted to from my bed on my computer. I mean, like I said before, I did go into the office every once in a while for like when I needed to print something or send stuff or whatever. But even that, it's like sometimes my nap time was taken away. But I mean, at that point, I needed a little bit extra cash in my pocket. But I mean, it is a balance. I mean, now I think everyone is so, like, jobs aren't even on our minds right now.
Right. So what are some of your favorite drills or most effective drills? Yeah.
No one here really likes my favorite drill. Do you like the Russian pick? No. Well, okay. My favorite drill is called the Russian pick. Taught to me by Al Acosta, the coach at Cal. I have no idea where the Russian pick came from. But it's basically like the pick drill. So say you're in an 8. You're starting with stern 4 arms only for like 10 strokes, and then you're going all 8 arms only for 10 strokes, and then you drop it down to bow 4 arms only, and then you go all 8 arms only, drop it down to stern 4 arms and bodies, and then all 8 arms and bodies. So you're doing the pick drill, you're just kind of cycling through stern 4, all 8, bow 4, all 8, the whole thing. I don't know. It's nice to because during the drill you're able to feel like when the boat slows down and you go down to whatever 4, that you can feel the load easier, and then also when the other 4 adds in, you can feel it pick. It's easy to feel the shift of speed.
Cool.
I would say that my favorite drill requires.
Can I guess? I think Lauren's favorite drill is legs only.
I would say that's in the top 3.
Okay, never mind.
I was going to say doing circles in the pair or rowing half boat in a big boat. Just to have everything slow down and feel what your body is doing.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I was just listening to Kevin Sawyer's bit on rowing circles in a pair this the other day. It's kind of cool.
Love a good circle.
We love circles.
And it sounds like, based upon what you said earlier, that your key indicators for work in a race to get to your race pace is the heart rate. Is that what you're working off of mostly? I mean,
What do you mean to get to race?
Your key indicator of your load and where you are.
Yeah. So the workouts like E to A, our heart rate. I mean, everyone's heart rate zones are different. Like for me, my E zone is like 130 to 150. And then I get into D, like 150 to 165. And then anything like 165 up is considered C, I guess. But normally, like I'm finishing a work, like if we're doing a hard workout, like a 2x6K or a 30-minute or whatnot, I'll end at like 198. Sometimes I get into the 200s, which I don't know if that's accurate for my age, but my tiny heart is going. But I mean, our workouts are, you know, answer this?
I mean, but they are based on heart rate, but they're also based on perceived exertion and stroke rate.
Sure.
We have a lot of stroke rate capped workouts. I would say 95% of our workouts have a stroke rate cap, and usually that cap is somewhere between 22, 24, 26. And for steady state, we would do 18, 19, or 20.
We hardly ever do any open stuff. I mean, we have last winter / fall, like we did a few 6Ks and a 2K, but people were saying like, oh, this is the first open rate 2K I've done in 6 years or whatever. So we don't really get to unleash all of the strokes allowed.
But yeah, to answer your question, I would say that most of the work we do is controlled either by heart rate, stroke rate, or just the way you're feeling.
Right. Cool. All right, thanks. So let's see. What are you currently focusing on now technically, each of you individually? Or is there anything particular you'd want to share in terms of what you're sort of dialing in to?
Well, Tom gave me homework the other day. He doesn't usually do this, but he gave me homework to watch the Australian women's 4/8 stroke seat. I believe her name is Molly Goodman. Because he said that we have similar physiques, which is negative hip mobility. But I guess since Lauren and I both have really tight hips. But since I do have tight hips, sometimes it's hard for me to get up to the catch and match my boat mates length. So I guess for me, I've been focusing on getting the length through relaxation and not like have like a stick up my butt. I'm trying to stay like kind of relaxed, and like if I relax my shoulders more, I'll be able to get more length at the catch. And especially if I get my body prepped before my knees come up, which Tom reminds us quite a bit to get prepped, get over.
Right now I am working on fully burying my blade before I drive, which is a battle that never ends. Been working on this for years. I'm still working on it.
Lauren likes to take people to what we call Water World, which is whenever you're sitting behind Lauren.
You might want to bring your raincoat.
In any boat, you go to Water World. It's a free ticket to Water World. You get to skip all the lines, unlimited rides.
Bring your raincoat, bring your rain boots, bring your umbrella.
Bring your friends.
Bring your friends.
Cold mittens, yes. Do you guys have any, I'm curious, do you spend, how much time spent on warming up or cooling down? Do you have a specific focus time spent on that? And probably depends on what you're doing, I would assume, for the day, for the sessions that you're doing in the day. That,
I mean, everyone, I think we definitely prioritize our warm up here more than like we did when I was at school. Like at school we did, by school I mean college, we did like 20 jumping jacks and 20 bodyweight squats. I'm like, okay, here we go. And here it's like we have 30 minutes. Like there's a meet time and then there's a warm up time, and there's 30 minutes in between those two. And we go for a 10-minute run. And then everyone kind of like does their own warm up activities, like what is best for their bodies. And some people need to warm up their back more. Some people need to warm up their shoulders more. But everyone kind of has their own routine and groove. Like I do the same thing every day, and occasionally I'll add in an exercise or two that Mark, our physical therapist, has like told me to do. And then here, people are cooling down, like stretching more here than when we were in Princeton past few months, just because it was so cold when we got off the water and everyone's like, I just need to go home and get in the shower.
right.
And I would also say that when Kendall was talking about we have a 30-minute warm up, that would be for steady state. So if we're doing steady state, we'll warm up for 30 minutes. But if we're doing pieces, we'll probably have an hour of warm up.
Right.
So there's like the land warm up and then there's the erg warm up.
Yeah.
So warming up is really important for us. We're not saving time on the warm up or anything.
Nice, cool. Okay, what about takeaway lessons that you've learned from rowing? Any lessons that you want to share? Sort of a broad question, but
I mean, I think it's important to, like, in any sport, failures are imminent, and it's important to learn from your failures and your past mistakes, whether it be a race where something went wrong and you could have, you did some race plan that was like, oh, not going to do that again. I don't know, just learn from your failures, and it's okay to fail. Like, none of us got here by succeeding at everything we did. We've all failed. Some of us more than others, and all of us, like, a lot of times. And you just got to keep grinding and moving forward, and not let mistakes or a bad erg test or a bad practice or race just like define your athletic abilities.
Right.
I would say for me, when I started rowing for the national team, I never wanted to have any regrets about anything. Like, if I made the Olympic team or not, I didn't want to have any single regret that I had left speed on the table. I wanted to give all of myself completely to the sport. And that way, whether I failed or succeeded, that I knew in my heart that I had done absolutely everything that I could have, so I could walk away feeling fulfilled in that way. Like, I have won races and not been impressed with myself, and I've lost races that I thought were the best thing I ever did. So it just needs to be about yourself and knowing that what you're doing is something that you can live with. Right. Whether you win the race or lose the race or make the team or don't make the team, you need to be okay with yourself, because winning is not going to make you happy, and losing can still be fulfilling in its own way. Not that I'm going out here to lose, but you need to be okay with yourself.
Nice, nice. So we're starting to sort of wrap up here, and I figure I just ask you some sort of lighter questions, so to speak, like what's your favorite post?
What's your favorite color?
What's your favorite shirt you like to wear in the water? No, what's your favorite, post-workout snack or post-race snack?
Ooh, Costco chocolate milk. I have a box in my car that whenever I just like finish practice, I go to my car, grab a chocolate milk,
Nice.
sip it on my way home.
Nice.
I love pizza.
Nice.
We'll go to Costco after practice, and it'll be like 10:30, 11, and Lauren's like, I'm gonna go get some pizza.
Nice. What's your favorite body of water that you like to row on?
Ooh. I mean, I really like Briones Reservoir, which is where Cal rows. It's really nice.
Yeah, it is.
Internationally, I think the coolest race course I've ever been to has been Varese, Italy. Just because it's like such a big body of water, but since it's surrounded by the Alps, it's like super calm. At least when I was racing there, it was calm. I'm sure there are wind comes. Yeah, I didn't experience that.
Nice.
Lucerne has and always will have a special place in my heart, because it was my first international race, and I set a world record there, and it's in the Alps, and it's like this perfect, beautiful body of water, and there's hills on the side, and there's like cows with their cowbells dinging, and the water is so clean that you can drink it, and it's just beautiful. I also feel like the Charles is my home course, so that is a sentimental favorite, and I love the head of the Charles. We'll always race the head of the Charles.
Nice.
Always? Forever? Wow.
How about what's your most exciting race and why? And it could be one that you've lost or won, but most exciting.
Ooh, you want to go?
Okay, there's two races that I will always love. The first one was 2012, head of the Charles in my single. I was racing the champ single, and I think I had bow number, I don't know, 13 or something. And I passed a bunch of crews. It was my home course. I was coaching for the Brookline Junior boys and girls at the time, and they had all stationed themselves all the way down the river, and they were all cheering for me, and they had signs, and the crowd went wild for me. And, I think I got 5th at that race, but I was so proud of myself. That was the best result that I had ever had, and I had lost to like Emma Twigg and Jebby and international scholars. And that race was like the moment that I knew that like I can make my goal happen. Like, this is the moment that I know that what I'm doing is working. And the other race I like is 2014 World Cup 2 Women's 8. This race, everyone in the 8 had raced a pair like an hour before, and all 4 of the pairs that came from the 8 made the A final. And by the time we got into the 8, we were very tired. I think this was our 5th race in 2 days or something. And we got dropped off the start so quickly and so fast that I did not even know that we were losing. Like there were no boats around. I didn't even know what happened. And we had to make up lengths and lengths of water the whole time. And at one point, I think we still had open water down off of Canada with 500 meters to go. And we ended up winning that race by 1 seat. And it was the most incredible thing that I'll probably ever be a part of in my life. If you have not seen that race, I recommend that you go watch it.
Yeah, nice.
It's a pretty good race.
Yeah, no, we'll check it out. Nice. Okay, well, what I'd like to do now is open it up. Unless you guys have any other words that you'd like to share, I'd like to open it up for questions from folks that are attending. And so what I think I'd like to do is, if it doesn't look like nobody has put questions in the chat, and we've got about 20 people or so on, so I'm going to just welcome people to, I'm going to unpin us, and I'm going to welcome people to actually unmute yourself and ask your question. And let's see here. Just going to take a sec here.
And feel free to type questions in the chat.
We would love to answer your burning questions.
Any questions. Could be, what's your favorite color?
I'm dying to know that about.
So while we're waiting for people to chime in, I think we started with this in the beginning, but I don't think people heard, what's your favorite downtime activity?
I mean, napping. This is the most down activity you can get. Be unconscious for a few hours. I don't know. I mean, Lauren really likes to do puzzles.
I love puzzles.
She's very smart. She has her puzzle pack. Well, she has like 3 puzzle packs. So imagine, imagine a gallon Ziploc bag, but just like with papers, like inches like shoved in the bag. And then there's 3 of them. She's 3 puzzle packs.
Thank you.
Puzzles. It's a compliment. That's how many puzzles you have, or will do, or have done. I don't know.
Sounds good. So does anybody have any questions? Because yeah, sure, Maggie. Do you want to?
Yeah, I spent 15 years in Japan, and I'm curious about what you guys are interested in seeing in Tokyo or in Japan.
Well, first of all, we probably won't see a whole lot. Olympic Village.
Like Kendall, I would also be excited just to be there. I can tell you that besides racing in Rio, the highlight of my trip was going to all the different sports events that were happening in Rio. They'll give you tickets to whatever you want, and they'll give you the athlete seats, which are like basically on top of the court. And you just get to see and appreciate all these Olympic sports that sometimes you don't get to hear that much about. And you get to meet the other athletes and learn about everyone else's journeys and just appreciate all the work that everyone is doing all the time at the height of their sport. I loved going to the other events.
Nice.
We have some questions.
Oh, we have questions.
Yeah. So any tips on motivating youth rowers while rowing an 8 or 4 isn't possible?
Well, motivating children is very hard. Even motivating ourselves is sometimes very hard. But if you can find a way to like make it a game or a challenge, like put people in like teams, even if it's on the erg, so they have something to like work together on, and like add another competitive aspect to it, could be fun.
I would say for me, when I was in quarantine, I was also having a problem of motivation because I was alone erging in my garage every single day, twice a day for what seemed like weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and months. So the game that I gave myself was, I set a goal that I was gonna try to erg the half marathon. And I gave myself a date, and I invited other teammates to join me on my half marathon pursuit. And then I focused my training around this event that otherwise I would have never done. And it was fun to do something different. And it was fun to find things that I personally found motivated. So like, I would say, ask the kids, like, what kind of goals do you have right now? Like, what would be fun for you to work on, and how can you work towards reaching those goals?
Nice. And here's another one. If you could do it over, what's another sport you would pursue?
So my brother played baseball growing up, and I would like play with him in the yard, but I never played softball myself. But I can throw a ball very, very far, and I have pretty good hand-eye coordination. So I think I would be a pretty good softball player if I went back and pursued something that wasn't rowing.
I would say that I found myself in rowing because I wasn't that great at other sports. But having all the information that I have about myself right now, I would definitely pursue an endurance sport, maybe like cross-country skiing, or I don't know, some event that's like 5 hours long. That is the event for me, definitely.
Lauren's engine just doesn't stop. It just keeps going.
So I have another question here from somebody. Typically the hardest time is in the middle of the race, and where a slump in the pace and power often occurs for this group. What would you recommend for a coxswain to call or do to proactively prevent this?
I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with the way that you train. Like if you train with pieces that are focused on being stronger in the second half, when it comes to race day, the piece will be like it was in practice, hopefully stronger in the second half. And people have learned to not just like fly and die and blow all of their energy up in the first 500 meters, if that's what they've done in practice. If people are just like, go out guns blazing, balls to the walls all the time, then that's just what they're gonna do in a race. And obviously we all know that is not a sustainable method over 2,000 meters, no matter how good you are. So I think if you focus the attention away from the race and focus it onto practice, that may help the third 500 slump, if you will.
And I would also say just focusing more on your pacing yourself rather than what's happening in the boats around you, especially in the beginning of the race. Just like trying to stay internal and set up a good rhythm in the beginning that, like Kendall said, can set you up to move faster in the second half, rather than starting as fast as you can and then just sort of fading throughout.
Right. Yep, makes sense. So there, I'm sure you guys are seeing these. So 2 of your favorite tough sprint workouts?
Ooh, D. Davis,
Yeah.
what kind of distance are you looking for here?
How long are you trying to sprint for?
Yeah, how long are you trying to sprint for?
5,000.
Wow.
That's a very long sprint.
That's a very long sprint.
Maybe they meant to say 500 meters.
500.
A good workout that I like to do, actually I wouldn't say I like to do it because it sucks. And I've only done it twice in my life, both at Cal. It was 3 sets of 7 by 1 minute on, 1 minute off. The first set, all from a start, like race pace start, and then the next 2 sets are just race pace. It sucks. It's so hard, but it's a good race prep sprinting for 21 minutes workout.
Nice.
I like the classics, a good 8 by 500.
It is a classic. It is a classic.
It's a classic for a reason.
Nice.
Sometimes before weights, I do this workout that's 30 seconds on, 2 minutes 30 off, times like 6 to 8, and that is very fun and also very hard.
How hard? Very hard. Like what rate though?
30 plus.
She just doesn't stop. She's always going.
Workout.
She's always on the erg. If you ever lose Lauren, it's probably erging.
So a couple more questions. If you didn't have to race a distance of 2,000 meters, what would be a fun distance for yourself to race?
Oh, I'm sorry, D. Davis. Time off between 8 by 500 is anywhere between 60 seconds and 2 minutes.
Cool.
If we didn't have to race a distance of 2,000 meters, what would be a fun distance for yourself to race? I really had a fun time with the half marathon.
I'm thinking like 500 meters. You go ahead.
I really had a fun time with the half marathon. It was really challenging for a really long time, and I loved pushing myself. And I think it was like 70 something minutes or something.
Nice, nice.
I mean, I have done in high school when we went to head of the Oklahoma, they do have night sprints, which are 500 meters long, and those are really fun. I mean, it would be cool if they had like at regattas shorter, like if there was a 250 or 500. But then if they did implement that, that would change as like a major race, that would change probably like the physiology of rowers, how we train, because you wouldn't have the people who are like more endurance, like Lauren, who would go for 2,000 meters. You'd have like these 6'4" super strong, like power lifter rowers if it was like 250 meters, so I can just bang it out for like 40 seconds.
Right.
Something fun that we did this fall, and also I've done this over the years, is called the Heineken Regatta, and you do a 250, a 750, a 2K, and a 5K, and all the events are weighted equally, and then you get a ranking based on your performance over the many distances.
Very cool.
That's fun.
It was really fun. If you are a coach of a club, if you could try to work that in, I'm sure your kids would enjoy it. And it's a good way to get in some hard workouts.
I would think it attracts more spectators too, potentially, but you know, I don't know.
It would probably not in
had
America.
exactly as many spectators as we usually do, which is 0.
True, right. Post-COVID, right. That's what I meant. Cool. Well, any other questions folks might have? We're just wrapping up here. Your last chance here. Yeah. And anything else that you guys would like to share with us that I don't have a question for?
Just stay positive. We're all in this together. Just, I don't know, keep going.
Yeah.
Try to have fun while you're out there.
Yeah. Make sure you're having fun. And if you're not having fun, try to find some fun. No one needs to be depressed, even though we're all depressed anyways.
Yeah, cool. Well, you're getting lots of wonderful comments here. Thank you for the discussion. Good luck. Thanks so much. Good luck with racing this summer.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone.
Best of luck, ladies. And yeah, I think we'll wrap it up here. Really, again, just really wonderful to have both of you. I really appreciate it, and everyone else on the chat did too. And folks that will be watching the video afterwards are going to enjoy it as well. So anyway,
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. It was fun.
and good luck. Really
Thank you.
cool. Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.